The day James Harrington's divorce papers were finalized was the same day his ex-wife Eliza appeared on the cover of Royal Heritage magazine, standing beside Queen Catherine of Norland, her mother. As he stared at the headline, "Lost Princess Returns," his coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against his marble floor just like his carefully constructed world. If you've ever wondered what true regret looks like, stay with me until the end to see how one man's shallow decision cost him everything while elevating the woman he discarded to heights he could never reach. If this story of karma, hidden royalty, and redemption speaks to you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true-life inspired stories that will leave you breathless. Eliza Montgomery had always been ordinary, or so everyone thought. With her simple wardrobe, minimal makeup, and quiet demeanor, she blended into backgrounds rather than commanding attention. When billionaire tech mogul James Harrington had proposed to her 5 years ago, the world had been shocked. What could the handsome, charismatic founder of Harrington Technologies possibly see in this plain, unremarkable woman? For a while, their marriage seemed like a fairy tale. James had fallen for Eliza's intelligence, her kindness, her ability to see through the superficial world he inhabited. She became his anchor, his confidant, the person who reminded him of what truly mattered beyond wealth and status. They built a life together in his penthouse overlooking Central Park, and for 3 years, James believed he had everything. But success changes people. As Harrington Technologies expanded globally and James's fortune tripled, the invitations to exclusive galas, fashion shows, and celebrity parties multiplied. Suddenly, James found himself surrounded by the world's most beautiful people, and increasingly aware of his wife's plainness beside them. "You could at least try," he told Eliza one evening as they prepared for a charity gala. "Wear something designer for once. Get your hair professionally styled. You're a billionaire's wife, for God's sake." Eliza had looked at him with those deep, knowing eyes that had once captivated him. "I thought you loved me for who I am, not how I look." "I do," James had replied, not meeting her gaze. "But appearances matter in my world." What James didn't know was that Eliza had grown up understanding the emptiness of appearances better than most. Raised by her aunt in a modest home in Connecticut, she had been told her parents died in an accident when she was an infant. The truth was far more complicated, and would have changed everything had James known. The cracks in their marriage widened when Alessandra Valentini entered James's life. The Italian supermodel had been hired as the face of Harrington Technologies' new luxury smart device line. Tall, exotic, with a presence that commanded every room, Alessandra was everything Eliza was not. Their affair began subtly: late meetings, business trips that extended mysteriously, text messages James would hide. Eliza noticed, of course. She always noticed everything. "Are you having an affair?" she asked one night, her voice steady despite the pain evident in her eyes. James could have denied it. Could have fought for what they had built. Instead, he sighed with something like relief. "I think we've grown apart, Eliza. You and I, we want different things now." "You mean you want someone different," she corrected quietly. The divorce proceedings were quick and surprisingly uncontested. Eliza asked for almost nothing, just a modest settlement that puzzled both James and his lawyers. She disappeared from New York society as quietly as she had entered it, leaving James free to flaunt his relationship with Alessandra across Page 6 and social media. "You dodged a bullet," his friend Marcus told him at his engagement party to Alessandra, just 3 months after his divorce. "Eliza was nice and all, but she was never really your league." James had nodded, champagne flute in hand, Alessandra dazzling the crowd across the room. Yet something hollow had formed in his chest, a void that grew despite his attempts to fill it with his beautiful new fiancée and the admiration of others. Meanwhile, Eliza had boarded a private plane to Norland, a small but wealthy European nation known for its privacy and discretion. The royal guard had met her at a private airfield, escorting her not to a hotel but to the palace itself. Queen Catherine had been waiting in her private study, her posture regal but her eyes, so like Eliza's, filled with tears. "My daughter," she whispered, embracing Eliza for the first time in 28 years. "You've come home at last." The story that unfolded over tearful conversations revealed the truth Eliza had never known. She was Princess Elizabeth of Norland, hidden away as an infant after credible assassination threats against the royal family. Queen Catherine, a young monarch then, had made the heartbreaking decision to send her only child to safety with her most trusted lady-in-waiting, Eliza's aunt, until the political situation stabilized. "I never intended it to be for so long," Queen Catherine explained, her voice breaking. "But each time we planned to bring you home, new threats emerged. Then your aunt reported you were happy, thriving, unaware of your heritage, and I convinced myself it was better to let you live normally than to thrust you into danger and the burden of royal life." "Why now?" Eliza asked, still processing the revelation that she was heir to a throne. "I'm ill," the Queen admitted. "And Norland needs its future secured. It's time for you to learn who you truly are and prepare for the role you were born to fulfill." For 6 months, Eliza remained out of the public eye, undergoing intensive training in royal protocol, Norlandic history, and governance. She learned the language of her homeland, studied its laws, and gradually formed a relationship with the mother she had never known. "You could have any stylist, any designer," Queen Catherine remarked one day, observing Eliza's still simple style. "Yet you maintain this understated appearance." Eliza smiled. "I've learned that true power doesn't need to announce itself. Besides, I've spent my life being overlooked. There's a certain advantage to being underestimated." The Queen had studied her daughter with newfound respect. "You will make a remarkable queen someday." The world learned of Princess Elizabeth's existence on the day of her official presentation to the Norlandic people, the same day James finalized his divorce from Eliza and became engaged to Alessandra. The Royal Heritage magazine cover story broke globally, revealing not just Eliza's royal identity but her remarkable personal accomplishments, her double doctorate in international relations and economics that she'd quietly earned while married to James, her anonymous charitable foundation that had built schools across developing nations, and her patent-pending medical device that was revolutionizing rural healthcare. James learned the truth as the rest of the world did, through headlines and viral social media posts. The plain, forgettable wife he had discarded was actually one of the most important women in Europe, heir to a prosperous nation, and apparently brilliant beyond anything he had bothered to discover during their marriage. His phone rang incessantly with calls from friends and business associates. Alessandra's publicist advised her to distance herself from the man who dumped a princess. Overnight, James became infamous rather than famous, the fool who couldn't see the extraordinary woman right in front of him. 6 months later, James found himself in Norland on business, a last-ditch effort to save a crucial European partnership that had cooled considerably since his divorce. The palace had not responded to his requests for a meeting with Princess Elizabeth, but he had managed to secure an invitation to a diplomatic reception where she would be present. When he finally saw her across the grand ballroom, James barely recognized his ex-wife. It wasn't that she had transformed her appearance. She still wore her hair in the same simple style, her dress was elegant but not ostentatious, her makeup minimal. What had changed was her presence. Eliza, now officially Princess Elizabeth, carried herself with a quiet confidence that commanded attention without demanding it. Diplomats, royalty, and business leaders gravitated toward her, listening intently to her words. James waited hours for an opportunity to approach her, rehearsing what he would say. When he finally maneuvered his way into her conversation circle, her eyes met his without surprise. "Mr. Harrington," she acknowledged with a slight nod. "I understood you might be attending tonight." "Your Highness," he replied, the title feeling strange on his tongue when addressing the woman who had once been simply Eliza to him. "Might I have a moment of your time? Privately?" Something flickered in her eyes, perhaps amusement, perhaps pity. "I'm afraid my schedule is quite full this evening. Perhaps my secretary can arrange something tomorrow, if it's a matter of business importance." "It's personal," James insisted, lowering his voice. "Please, Elizabeth. 5 minutes." She studied him for a moment before nodding to her security detail. They moved to a small antechamber off the main ballroom, still visible through glass doors but offering a semblance of privacy. "You look well," James began awkwardly. "Thank you. As do you." Her voice was polite but distant. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question burst from him. "All those years, you were a princess, and you never said a word." Elizabeth's expression softened slightly. "I didn't know, James. I only learned the truth after we separated. But you must have suspected something. Your education, your connections." "I believed I was a scholarship student who worked hard," she interrupted. "My aunt, who I now know was my mother's lady-in-waiting, raised me to value education and service above all else. There were no hints of my true identity." James ran a hand through his hair. "If I had known." "What?" Elizabeth asked, her voice suddenly sharp. "You would have treated me differently? Valued me more? That's precisely why I'm grateful you didn't know." The truth of her words struck him like a physical blow. He had discarded her because she hadn't fit his image of what a billionaire's wife should be. Had he known she was royalty, he would have stayed for all the wrong reasons. "I made a terrible mistake," he admitted. "Not because of who you turned out to be, but because I failed to see who you always were." Elizabeth regarded him thoughtfully. "We all make choices, James. Yours revealed your priorities, as did mine. And now? Your Highness has no room in her life for second chances?" He attempted a charming smile, the one that had always worked on her before. "Actually, I believe deeply in second chances," she replied. "Just not with you." As if on cue, a tall, distinguished man approached and bowed slightly to Elizabeth. "Forgive the interruption, Your Highness, but the Prime Minister is hoping to introduce you to the Finnish delegation." "Thank you, Henrik." Her smile for this man was warm, genuine in a way it had never been for James even in their best days. "Mr. Harrington, may I introduce Henrik Larsson, our Minister of Foreign Affairs and my fiancé." James felt the floor shift beneath him. "Fiancé?" "A recent development," Henrik said pleasantly, though his eyes assessed James with clear recognition. "Though we've known each other since Her Highness returned to Norland." "Henrik values substance over appearance," Elizabeth explained, her hand resting comfortably in his. "A quality I've come to appreciate even more with time." The dismissal was clear. James watched as she walked away with Henrik, the crowd parting respectfully for them. In that moment, he understood completely what he had thrown away, not a princess, but a woman of extraordinary character who had loved him despite his flaws, who had seen value in him beyond his wealth and status. His phone buzzed with a text from Alessandra. "Where are you? These people are boring me to death." James stared at the message, suddenly seeing his relationship with the model for what it was, as superficial as he had become. With a sigh, he pocketed his phone without responding and headed for the exit. Outside the palace, snow was falling gently over the ancient city. James stood for a moment, looking back at the golden light spilling from the windows, at the life he could have shared had he been wise enough to recognize the treasure he had. Princess Elizabeth would go on to marry Henrik in a ceremony that combined royal tradition with intimate touches that reflected her unique journey. When Queen Catherine passed 2 years later, she ascended to the throne as Queen Elizabeth I of Norland, her reign marked by progressive policies and diplomatic skill that earned her the nickname, the People's Queen. James and Alessandra never made it to the altar. Their relationship imploded under the weight of mutual superficiality and the constant reminder of his infamous mistake. He retreated from public life, eventually selling his company and establishing a foundation dedicated to educational opportunities for underprivileged students, his own attempt at finding meaning beyond appearances. Years later, at a global climate summit, James would briefly encounter Queen Elizabeth again. Their exchange would be cordial, professional, without rancor but also without warmth. He had learned his lesson at tremendous cost, while she had discovered her true worth and purpose despite his rejection. Sometimes, the most valuable things in life come disguised in plain packaging. Sometimes, what we discard as ordinary turns out to be extraordinary. And sometimes, the person we underestimate most becomes the one whose loss we regret forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales of unexpected twists, hidden identities, and the powerful reminder that true worth lies beneath the surface. Remember, judge slowly, love deeply, and never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just be royalty in disguise.